On BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, a topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about is male infertility. It can be seen as a taboo subject, and many men don't want to admit that they have these fertility-type problems, even though it is now one of the most common reasons why couples need fertility treatment. In the studio with me, I've got Freddie Shaw. He's fit. He's 27 years old. He's from Milton Keynes. He discovered he had fertility problems and decided to talk about it publicly. He also joins me in the studio with his partner, Tracy Kiss. It's a great name, Tracy Kiss.
Thank you.
Isn't that wonderful? Nana Kiss. It's not my name, but yes, welcome. So Freddie, first things first. When did you find out that you had fertility problems?
So it would have been about a month ago now. I guess it was just the both of us having that curious question about talking about children, and I think from having a look a lot recently in the news and on the internet, it looks like fertility rates have been dropping in westernised society over the last 30, 40 years. And I think it was a question that we had that maybe one day it could be a possibility that we look to have kids. And I think it was more of a case that we were curious to get a check-up and just see how we potentially are nowadays. Being a healthy couple and being active and all of that, I think we then just took the step that we thought it'd be interesting just to see how we are and how we can then plan going forward for the future.
It's very sensible of you, isn't it? That's super sensible. I mean, so you went to get the test done, and you got the results. And what were they?
So my results came through that I have a sperm count of, it's 5 million per milliliter, which is about a third of what the average sperm count comes in at, which I guess is a bit of a shock, because I guess you normally assume being quite fit and active and sort of having a healthy lifestyle that you'd come in at sort of a normal range. So I guess it was a bit of a shock initially when you get the news and you're told that your swimmers aren't quite as good as what you'd maybe expect them to be. Yeah. But I think at the same time it was just very interesting to find out that there are steps that you can then take to hopefully try and improve that going forward. And I guess being quite young, it then gives you that idea that hopefully we can plan going forward, and it's given us that discussion and conversation that we can have to hopefully plan maybe sooner, depending on how it then seems in the years going forward.
Yeah. Now Tracy, you heard the news. What were your thoughts when you realised?
I thought it would be me, if anything. I'm 3 years older. I've had 2 children, cervical cells that have been removed, which I think most women through smear testing are quite concerned about. So I just automatically presumed the woman's biological clock is ticking. You get towards 35, it's a fertility drop, and then again at 40. So it was more so that I thought I didn't have time. And for Freddie to be strong, we go to the gym together. We're both into bodybuilding. We eat healthy. We work out daily. I never thought there'd be something wrong, and it's not something that you can see visually. You can't just look at somebody and say, you look like you're weak or malnourished. It's not that. It's something that lives with everybody silently. And unfortunately, we kind of live in a society where you don't know what your fertility is, and you always kind of presume as and when you're ready, you can have a baby. But what actually happens if you're told, last year you could have done, but this year you can't? And we would rather know than not know.
Yeah, that now, and again, a very sensible way to go about things. Now, Freddie, you mentioned some steps that can be taken. On the line, I've got John Hughes. He's a consultant with Oxford Fertility, and he runs a clinic in Milton Keynes. So we'll have a chat with him, actually, and find out. Hello, John. Welcome to the show.
Afternoon. Thank you for having me on. Sorry I couldn't be there in person.
That's all right there. Don't worry. We've got Freddie and Tracy in the studio, so it's all good. So Freddie mentioned some steps that people could take. But what kind of steps could somebody take if they find out that their fertility isn't as good as it could be?
Well, big question. It's a complicated area. There are lots and lots of different causes of problems with the sperm count. And really, it's so individual. You need to pick it apart with a guy with you. how I find it useful to start is there's 3 basic causes of there being a problem with the sperm count. It could be, for instance, a problem with the man's health. So he might be on medications for a health problem. Maybe he's older. He might have blockage in the sperm ducts, or maybe a genetic problem. Could lifestyle or mumps in the past, of course, and mumps or another infection. Maybe he got very ill and was admitted to ITU with a high temperature. It doesn't sound like the case with Freddy, but that's a cause. And those sorts of things, you try and address them and make their health as good as you can to let things improve on their own. And sorry, before I go on, I should say the sperm are these amazing little genes. They're so highly tuned little racing cars, I've heard them described that. And they have to be able to swim so fast and hard to be able to get to the egg and then penetrate the egg's defences and then deliver this perfect little package of DNA into the egg to fertilise it and make the baby. And so anything that goes wrong can interfere with that. So then looking at lifestyle things, it sounds very much like Freddie's got that covered. He's fit and well and healthy. But for other people, then you'd have things like being overweight. That can cause problems because the fat tissue makes a hormone similar to the female hormone estrogen, and that's not good for sperm. Smoking, not surprised, that's terrible for sperm quality. And unfortunately,
why?
Vaping, the flavours in the vapes, there's suspicion that might affect sperm quality. Then you've got obviously well, perhaps not obviously, but the recreational drugs like cannabis can be bad for sperm. Bodybuilding drugs are terrible for sperm, and then the thing that everyone's heard about is tight underwear, allowing the testicles to overheat because they're on the outside for a reason, to keep cool, and so loose-fitting underwear and things like that is advice we can give. So those are the things that you can kind of start talking about, but there's lots more to say.
I was going to say, you mentioned bodybuilding, and Freddie, you guys build a lot. Do you have any idea?
I was only using the drugs, the injections.
Yeah. Okay. So that'd be So that's different. That's a different question, then, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Do you have any idea why, or anything that may have impacted on your fertility?
I think sometimes if you look back at some of the things that you may have done throughout life, and I guess the uni years where you may drink a bit more than you normally would throughout those years, and the late nights, and I guess work-wise as well, I have had a lot of office jobs over the last few years where at times you may be sitting down for 3 hours straight as you're doing work, and which obviously isn't helping, and doing work whilst having a laptop on your lap. I guess there's certain things that I guess I have looked back on and thought maybe some of these things that I have done in the past could have had an impact on this. And I guess the thing that could be done now is maybe trying to change some of those slight lifestyle changes. So I guess if you're working an office job, maybe getting up every hour and having a little bit of a walk around, which is what I try and do nowadays anyway. Maybe not working with a laptop on my lap, or sitting down or lying down for prolonged periods of time. I guess it's just trying to do those small steps. And I guess one that I heard is that multivitamins, and I think it was zinc and iron, can have quite a good impact on hopefully trying to increase those levels. So I guess that's one thing I've started doing now is taking supplements to hopefully sort of bolster that count, and maybe at some point, whether it's in a year's time, maybe just seeing if it's had any impact going forward from what it was when I had my test just over a month ago now.
So you're not technically infertile. There's just a very low sperm count, really.
Yeah, we could still naturally conceive. It may just be delayed. So the average couple has an 80% chance of falling pregnant within 12 months of trying. So for us, it could potentially take maybe a couple of years. If not, then we could maybe have IVF. So there are definitely routes we can take, and to make lifestyle changes now will help us to conceive naturally. Yeah.
Now it's quite a taboo subject. A lot of men won't talk about it. So why have you decided to come and talk about it?
I guess when you first have the test done, it kind of makes you feel a bit, not vulnerable to an extent, but it makes you have that feeling that, you'd expect that you'd be quite a fertile individual having that healthy lifestyle. And I guess it's more to just raise awareness that, it could happen to anyone. I guess myself, I like to think of myself as quite fit and active. I eat quite healthy. I have smoked occasionally in the past, but haven't smoked for over a year now. And I guess it kind of then makes you think that it'd be quite good to just raise awareness to anyone out there, especially being relatively young. And I guess I've seen it in the past where you've had couples who have been together for a long time who have tried to prolong almost having children at a time when they do then try. That's when the complications occur. So it's almost just trying to raise that awareness that even if it's just that checkup at some point or another, just to understand where you are, if you are trying to plan for a family, I think it's maybe better sometimes to do it sooner rather than later.
And it's great that you're coming to talk about it. And coming back to you, John, how would you how do we encourage sort of more men to confront this particular subject?
I think Freddie's attitude is brilliant, and it's great that he's willing to be on and we get this conversation going, because it is something that men do see as embarrassing. And in general, the number of sperm in a sperm sample has got nothing to do with, I don't know, someone's sexual function or their testosterone level or their masculinity. And so someone's concerned, they should seek advice. And when do they seek advice, I guess, is the question, because we don't want to just panic and straight away go up. The normal thing we say is if they've been trying for a year, or if the guy's older, because there is an effect on the guy's age. So he's over 45, start to think seriously about getting checked out. Or if the female partner is 36 or above, then you don't want to hang around really, because as Tracy said, you do start to worry in the later 30s that the fertility is dropping off. And so that would be a time to get checked out. Or, of course, if he's worried about his health. So if he's had, I don't know, maybe surgery on the testicle or cancer treatment in the past, or mumps infection, or maybe sexual infections like gonorrhea or something in the past, then that would be a reason to get checked out sooner if you've got a reason to think. And in terms of what Freddie said about drinking in the past and the odd cigarette in the past, it takes 3 months to make a sperm. We make 1,000 per heartbeat, but it takes 3 months for one of those to be produced. And so any toxin effect should in general be gone after 3 months or so. So the university days are behind you. So
you're forgiven.
I wouldn't So alcohol-wise, there's lots of stuff I haven't said, but alcohol-wise, guys are not allowed, should not drink as much as they would normally do. And so we normally say 7 pints in total in a week, in maximum, and 3 pints in 24 hours. So 4 pints is too much. The vitamin tablets can be very good. There are some for guys trying for babies, and I think you mentioned those. But if you're eating a healthy, balanced diet, maybe they're not as important, but it certainly doesn't help. And there are some that are specifically tailored for the guys trying for babies. And they're certainly worth a try. If we've got someone who's got a lower count, which isn't terrible, by the way. Your result wasn't bad. No. I mean, not terrible, but those can make a difference. So, yeah. Sorry.
Well, listen, John, thank you very much for all that information. It's good to hear that there are things that people can do. That's John Hughes. He's a consultant with Oxford Fertility, and he runs a clinic in Milton Keynes. If you just joined me, this is Your Health Show. I'm speaking to Freddie and Tracy. We're discussing male fertility. Freddie, what would you say to any man who is concerned about their fertility?
I think it's just about manning up to a certain extent, and if you think there may be an issue or you think there may be a complication, then I think it's better just to get it checked and just put your mind at ease. I think it's almost made me think that initial feeling when you find out is not a nice feeling, knowing that you've got a considerably low sperm count, but at the same time I guess it's then when you can almost plan going forward. And whether it is a case that one day Tracy and I do have children, whether we have the complication through trying to conceive naturally, at least now we know that there are these other options that can be taken, whether it's through IVF or whether we take another route further from that.
Well, listen, Freddie and Tracy, thank you very much for coming to talk to us about it. And hopefully, if anyone's listening, hopefully that's inspired you to maybe, take action, have a test, find out how good or bad your fertility is. At least then, once you know, you can maybe take some steps to change things if that's possible.